I'm Roger Yang, in charge of BIP product globalization. It's my pleasure to be here to discuss with you an important question. Actually, a lot of business leaders are asking, what will the future enterprise look like? So at the beginning of this presentation, I give a very brief answer. So the future enterprise must be global by design, intelligence by default, and locally compliant wherever it operates. In the next 20 minutes, I will try to go through the story to tell you about what is changing around the world, right, from the economic perspective and from the technology perspective, and what's the impact to our enterprise systems. And then, last but not least, how yonyou can help you as the customers, hand by hand, how to drive through this transformation journey. Okay, then let's get started. So, 4 major topics. So, number 1, how globalization is being rewired. Second one is how AI is redesigning the enterprise. Number 3 is how BIP becomes the global enterprise platform to connect your global operations, local compliance, and AI agents, right? And then the number 4 is how yonyou's global network to work closely with you to drive the transformation journey. So let me start with the globalization. Look at the world in the last couple of years. So a lot of things happened, right? So for example, the geopolitical tension between China and the US, the sanctions everywhere, right? Especially in the technology sectors, like in high-end chips, GPUs. And the tariff initiated by the US actually against the rest of the world, right? And even wars sadly happened in Ukraine and the Middle East. So that's why a lot of people are wondering whether globalization is disappearing or we are going back to the old world. So at least my observation is not, but globalization is changing the shape. So let's look at a couple of numbers. Actually, these 4 numbers can build give us certain hint. So let me look at those numbers one by one together with you. First number, digitally delivered service exports in 2025 actually reached $5 trillion, which was actually 10% year-over-year growth. This is a big number. That means traditionally those physical goods are crossing border, right, as part of the global trade. And now those intangible goods like software, like data, like expertise, like services are transferring the border. This becomes a more digital trend. Second number, AI actually could increase the global trade from 34% to 37% by 2040 across different WTO scenarios. What does it mean? AI can definitely increase the internal productivity. But on the other side, AI is also change how the global trade, how the business is going to play in the global environment, right? It's not only about the internal game. It's about how the business is running. Third one, 86% of employers actually expecting AI to transform their business by 2030. That's a high expectation. And the fourth number, 40%, according to Gartner's expectation, Gartner predict that 40% of enterprise application will at least have certain agentic capability by end of 2026, which is not so far away, right? And the number for 2025 was only 5%, right? It's a huge increase from 5% to 40%. So by putting all those 4 numbers together, the trend is very clear. Global business is becoming more digital, more distributed, and more autonomous, right? So what's the implication for us if we talk about enterprise system? So the challenge is actually to connect the global scale, local compliance, and the trusted AI execution. Let's continue. Another trend, compliance. So when you talk about localization, talk about countries, compliance is always the very, very essential but so crucial topic, right? Now, looking at the government trend, the compliance is moving from periodical reporting to the real-time transaction-based reporting. The old model was you record the transaction first, and then you report it later, right? Your finance team will take time to close the book, like month-end closing, right? Prepare the tax return, and then do the filing after the event. That was the traditional way. But the new way is becoming real-time. When a transaction is recorded in your system, it immediately gets validated by the local tax and invoice rules. And even in a lot of countries, those transactions should be immediately sent to the tax authority, government platform, or those e-invoice network, right? And then you get those clearance result or exceptions. Right? And then all those processes should become the audit proof. All the evidence is traceable for the audit purpose. So that means transact, validate, and report. 3 events are actually becoming a single event, right? When you transact, you fulfill everything. The government, the tax authority have all your data. And even if we look at the future, maybe in the near future, you don't need to do the tax filing because the tax authority have all your data, right? Because they have those fine granularity transaction-based data. You don't even do the periodical reporting. It already happened in a couple of countries already. For example, United Kingdom. I'm not sure whether there's any guest from the UK, right? In the UK, they call the Make Tax Digital initiative. So basically the purpose is to get all your transaction data. You have no chance to massage your tax report, massage your financial report, right? That's a big trend when you run the business. So what this means is in the past, in certain projects, during the implementation, into the very late stage, you add those localization capability as a last step. And it will be super risky in the future. Then localization must be engineered into the platform from the very beginning. And then another trend is about the data privacy and the compliance. So this picture is the current global landscape. So the original report has a much more crowded slide like this. I simplified a little bit. As of now, 172 countries have already established the data privacy related laws. 172 countries, which is almost 90% of the total country in the world. The regulation name might be different in those countries, right? But they address the same questions. Basically, the question is, what kind of a personal information do you collect? Why do you collect them? Right? Who can access that? What's the retention period? That means how many months or years you can keep it. Whether these personal data can be transferred across the borders, right? Those are the big pack questions. The most famous one is actually the GDPR from the European Union, right? The penalty might be very, very significant. If you search the internet, so I think a couple of US company, US internet company, as well as a couple of Chinese companies get those huge fines, right? A couple of billion US dollar fines like that. So that's becoming so crucial. So that's why the key trend is data privacy compliance is becoming essential for almost every global customer. You cannot avoid that. You cannot handle data privacy topic in a spreadsheet by the manual effort. It must be part of your enterprise system, right? And managed very carefully with all the evidence, with all the traceability.